And this is the part where there's always 5 or 10 seconds.
Gonna...
Yeah. Don't know if we're live.
I was like,
well, we're live, maybe. I think we're live. And then, like, because there's like a delay. So, hey, everyone. Yeah. I believe we're live now. Welcome to this Rokoko Office Hours. I'm Sam Lazarus, creative director for Rokoko. And today I'm very fortunate to be joined up here above me by 2 of our winners from the RokokoTV Animation Challenge, Alex Hindle and Marvelous Media Designer. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for joining me.
That's Marvelous Media Engine.
Oh no, Marvelous Media Engine.
No.
That's okay, right. It's the Marvelous Designer in me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I should have done some research before I came up with the name.
You must get that all the time.
Yeah.
You look just like Marvelous Designer. But yeah,
it's a lovely name. It's a good name.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for joining me. Yeah, this is going to be fun. And so we're going to be going into your workflows for your winning entries, which let me put them up on the screen here, actually. There we go. We got some winning entries, and you guys can't see them, but I'm just playing each of yours. And Marvelous, you did the Jerry Springer, You Slept With My Plumber, and which won 3rd. And then Alex did the Cecil's Saucy Saucers, which won 1st place. And they're both amazing pieces. Were you guys happy with the final results?
Oh yeah, I was just happy to be up there. That's always exciting when you're in like the top 10 even. You're like, oh cool.
I know.
I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
Yeah, same there. It's like I just like rushed it so much. I thought I've just got to actually submit this. Like I don't care if I've cut so many corners, and so I was just not expecting,
How long did each of you spend on this? Because it was a long contest, but I always start the week before it's due, which is horrible. Yeah. Is that what you guys did as well? Or no? Hopefully not.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, I think I thought about it all from the start. My friend sent me the link, said, "Here, gotta check this out." So, started thinking straight away. Before, I think it ruined my Christmas. I think I was just thinking, like, what can I do? And
yeah.
Did
you do it last year when they did the big contest in January?
No, I didn't. No. This is the first competition I've sort of done for a while, really. In terms of animation, I've done a couple of still ones, like, years ago.
Yeah, because you're a big like character designer mostly, it seems like, and we'll talk about your guys' backgrounds a little bit, but just cruising the art station, it's like beautiful character portraiture, but not a lot of moving things, seemingly.
No, and that's what I've always wanted to do, is like got the character side, I have done animation. It's like I've got to bring this together. So this competition was like, I've just got to jump on this and give it a go and learn a load of stuff as well. So,
and it worked.
But yeah, it was like a week before. I was just like, cram it, gotta finish it.
Yeah. Well, that's the advantage of Unreal too, I guess. In the end too, you don't have to worry about those render times as much.
No, it's a joy. Yeah.
What Marvelous? What about you? Were you like last minuting it as well?
Yeah, well, so like last year, that competition, I did the week thing where you like, I just didn't have an idea, and then you get an idea last minute, and then you just cram it. But this year, I've been, I was working on a side project with Daisy and Peach and a Jerry Springer setup, and then you guys just by serendipity like wanted a TV contest, and I was like, oh cool, I can use this contest as motivation to get me started on my own project. So yeah, it was just like total happenstance that. Yeah, so actually I've been working on this thing since like November. On my YouTube channel, there's like a Daisy Lana Del Rey thing.
Yeah.
And I wanted Peach and Daisy on Jerry Springer like talking shit about each other's social media. So I made that's Daisy's kind of social media presence, and then you'll see Peach's. I don't know if it's gonna go anywhere, but
it's hilarious.
I've been working on it a while.
Well, you did the Lana Del Rey thing too, but that's crazy that it was a Jerry Springer thing that you were working on too, like TV.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's because I grew up in the 90s, and I just have a lot of nostalgia for that time. In some ways, there's a lot of things I like better about the 90s. There was a lot more like hope, and you have your 64 controller in the background. Like every generation of gaming was like a revolution in gaming. So yeah, and so Jerry Springer, that fits into the 90s too, and I watched a little bit of that as a kid, and I liked it because it had like beeped out words on the television, and I thought, wow, this is so like naughty. I can't believe I'm watching this on regular TV.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was doing some research to get like the right environments and stuff, so I watched a lot of Jerry Springer in the last like couple months, and I was like, he's actually like a really amazing guy, and I mean, you guys should do some research on it. He's an incredible person, and I was like feeling compelled by his, like, I haven't seen compelling TV like that. Like everything on Netflix is nothing compared to like a Jerry Springer episode. Kind of weird.
That's hilarious. That's fascinating. That must have been a trip to watch. It's interesting. A lot of people, I mean, Cecil Saucy Saucers too is like an older. You know, I think a lot of people. I mean, I guess that was when TV was still around, but jumped back to the 90s or the 80s. That kind of era is when everyone seems to think about TV.
Oh yeah, so yeah, that's. I mean, I grew up sort of, you know, the 90s, and a lot of my reference points were like, you know, late 80s and 90s. You know, for Cecil, I don't think in the UK we had these kind of car dealership adverts, but you know, I know that America, you know, had some legendary ones. Yeah, but, you know, just researching on those, it's just some hilarious, you know,
just YouTube rabbit holes of old used car commercials and stuff. Yeah,
so good. Yeah,
brilliant. Yeah, so amusing. All of that stuff. Well, okay, so let's. Oh no, go for it. Go.
I was just gonna say, there's even a scene in. I was just watching Beetlejuice not too long ago, and there's a scene where Beetlejuice does like a car salesman parody thing, where he's like, "Ah, Beetlejuice, come on down to this plant." You know?
Yeah.
You should check it out if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the car salesman thing, like, was it's a big deal.
I mean, Jerry Springer,
like,
car salesman.
It lives on.
Yeah, but those are all like iconic kind of TV things. So I guess it isn't surprising that's where people, because a lot of people did things like that. Like, and those I think were some of the best. Were the commercials or like a lot of WWE stuff, and just of a different era, kind of, which is I'm just interesting. Not a lot of like the Gossip Girl 2000s era of TV, which was another thing. But yeah, anyway, let's I do want to ask kind of before, because I want to jump into your guys' actual projects, which is very generous of you to open up, and they're still working, which is great, and we can take a look at those. But Marvelous, can you talk a little bit about your just like what program you even work in, do you work in 3D full time? Is it a hobby? And kind of your, just when it comes to CG, what's your history with it?
Well, I used to like make little computer animations as a kid. There was a program on these Macs called HyperCard, and it was like a slideshow program. And I think you could also design like rudimentary websites, but I kind of learned to do this like stop motion where you could just hit the arrow key and make characters come to life. But I never thought like computer animation was ever possible after, seeing Toy Story. It just seemed like so elite and out there. And it was just like about 10 years. So like I totally got out of the whole dream of like ever getting into filmmaking or whatever. So in my late 20s, it was like, wait, there's this like free program. And I was working at an ad agency, and like that's when I just focused on Blender. And I just really like took a deep dive on Blender for like 5 years, and really kind of mastered the ins and outs of like the camera tracking, the rigging, and I really understood it deeply. And since then I've been kind of branching out, like learning a little Houdini, and then we talk, Unreal Engine is like seems to be the new thing that's going to be a necessary piece of any production. But yeah, so I'm mainly a Blender guy, and man, it seems like though every week a new thing comes out, and it's just I'm starting to feel a little burdened by all these things that it's like every new program is like a new like weight you have to carry, or every new skill. And so yeah, I don't know, but yeah, that's kind of my story. Actually, my background is in journalism, so I did a lot of news for a while, and I was like, man, news sucks. I hate this. You can't be creative, you can't do anything. And that's how I got into the marketing bit of it.
Side of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what version of Blender did you start with?
A 2.71.
Okay, so right before the shit. So in the olden days, I mean.
Yeah, it was 2014, and like the only tutorials, which were pretty nice. I mean, were Andrew Price's tutorials, but now it's like you get on YouTube and there's just like millions. It's almost like too much.
Yeah. Well, Blender and Unreal, I think, because they're free, and which are the two programs that you guys were in, and it makes it a lot easier to teach yourself when there's free programs that people can do tutorials in, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Alex, how about you? What was your path, kind of, to it? And I've been playing. I was playing the Peach Lana Del Rey thing in the background, and some of the other stuff from Marvelous, and now I'm playing some of the incredible, like, character work that you've done, Alex, which is very different.
Yeah, I mean, the character stuff, I mean, I've always drawn, like, from a young age, I was like, I loved animation, like, used to stay up late and watch these kind of weird animation shows, because we only had 4 channels in the UK. It's like 2 of the channels played, really crazy animations, like, after midnight. So I used to, like, sneak and watch all that. So that stuck with me. And I went, my path was with 3D, was started in college. We had like, what was this software? We had Infinity. That was like my sort of route in. That was really rudimentary, 3D.
Right.
It had animation and it had ray tracing, and it took like a week to render a frame.
But it had ray tracing. It's one of like the precursor programs. Yeah.
It was, It was pretty advanced, and it worked on the Macs. We were all on Macs then. So just like, I did graphic design. I thought, I was going to keep up with this 3D stuff, and I joined a company called Soup, and that's where I sort of just really got into animation there. So I started with like stop frame stuff and compositing and a bit of motion graphics, but like, taught myself the 3D side. So I went through like Cinema 4D, and then it's like, went to Modo, then picked up a bit of Blender, but just for animation stuff that Modo couldn't quite, wasn't there yet. And so I've sort of gone full circle, like back to Blender now.
Yeah.
And Unreal on top of that. So it's like, using quite a lot of softwares, and I'm trying to keep up to date now. I guess it's
I think that's a good way of approaching it, though, is using the tool for the job, and not, I think it's easy to identify as like, I am a Modo artist, and it's really just whatever is useful in what you're trying to do is your kind of your tool, and you can kind of pick them up as you go.
It's like, everything's got its strengths, everything. Use all these things together, just and like, Marvelous was saying, there's so many tutorials out there. It's like, whatever problem you face, there's already a tutorial someone's made. So it's like, spend half your time on YouTube just trying to fix it out.
Just watching them obsessively.
So that's my path. Now I'm like the stuff at Soup, that was for like 15 years we were doing. Like music videos and music documentaries and like theatre stuff, like live theatre. So like all AV design. So then I went, freelance for a bit, tried to pick up a few like character modeling jobs. And that's when I got into like, the character stuff and developing that side, independently of the work, just for like sort of personal kind of.
Yeah, and are all the ArtStation sculpts and stuff, those are all just personal projects that you've worked on?
Yeah, they're just all personal stuff. Yeah, as and when I get, the time to sort of, pour a bit of love into something. I usually spend quite, a lot of time just in detailing these things.
Yeah, you can tell. It's and I've got for anyone who wants to see this stuff, in the description down below, there's links to the ArtStation and Marvelous's YouTube and everything, and they're both. There's a lot of amazing stuff on both of your guys' channels, and it's very different, which is cool though.
I've been getting more. I look forward to seeing your work. I've been getting more and more into character stuff as well, just because with with storytelling, it's like you can't have a story without a subject, like a person or a character. And have you ever seen the original? They were called FMVs, full motion videos for the Silent Hill game.
Oh wow.
You should I played it as a kid, and like it blew me away as a kid, you know, because they had like the full render.
Right.
You know, I don't think it was full ray tracing. They used like soft image or something. But
Right.
Yeah.
it was like this one guy in Japan. He made all the renders for that game because he wanted to get his credit. Like they said, oh well, we won't give you a credit if you have like helpers. So he's like, no, forget it. I'm gonna do all the renders, and he didn't have any like references of like white people at the time, so he was just kind of looking at magazines and kind of guessing on facial structures and stuff. But the animation he brought to it, like this is in like 97 or something, some of the most uncanny, in a good way, realistic movements and realistic people. I'd really recommend people watch those FMVs for Silent Hill, because there's something that like I think a lot of 3D artists miss, and like those animations, there's like a soul in them, even though they're a little it's just, I just highly recommend checking them out. There's this one scene where this girl, like blood starts dripping down her face and she's stumbling, and it's just the most
unique,
compelling, like one of the most compelling shots I've seen, especially rendered. And the fact that they look so human, and it's 96 or 97.
Yeah.
It's just like super inspiring.
It's interesting.
Something like that one guy could do it on that equipment.
Well, a lot of like those projects, right? They were like single people, right? And then it got really, you know, hundreds of people working on things, which is great too. But now it's back. The accessibility is back for a single person to be able to make a full whatever, you know, project, which is always interesting stuff. Okay, well, should we jump into some actual Blender and Unreal or whatever, and check out how you guys set up some of these how you set up these entries? Yeah. Okay, hold on. I gotta change my thing here. So we're gonna dive into Marvelous's project first, and I'm gonna try and keep us to about a half an hour to 40 minutes, and then we'll swap over. Just because we want to get everything in, but. I mean, so Marvelous, I'm interested in your whole process. I mean, I don't know if there's a way you want to talk us through how you even approach this project, or you want to jump right into the mocap, like, you're driving the ship.
Hey, so can you hear me? It said my mic might be offline. Can you hear me?
No, we can still hear you.
Okay, cool. So the one thing that I think is kind of cool about like my setup is that I was able to use Blender's like Rigify tool. So can you guys see Daisy right now?
Yes. Oh my God.
Amazing.
Yeah. The physics already.
I did take, so just so you can see her legs, like I really like having these IK controls, especially on the legs. And let me bring in something you might recognize, Sam.
Hello. It's old Newton.
Who's that guy? And this might be so this is like free on the Rokoko studio.
Oh, that's me, baby.
But I just wanted to quick show you that it is possible to retarget that Newton dude onto like the full FK Rigify in Blender. So let's see and the one caveat is I'm using the Auto Rig Pro add-on.
Yeah.
So can you guys see this YouTube video I'm showing? It's called Rigging Dojo Rokoko to Blender Rigify. So he uses this video right here. He uses the Rokoko app to retarget. So like I think this would be the ideal way, but when I did it, I must have input a naming convention wrong in some spot, so an error popped up. So maybe take a look at that.
But but to jump back, because this is definitely something that we want to talk about, right? Which is the mocap part of this. I think you were mentioning before we jumped on that. So we have a tutorial on our channel, but I am not a big Blender user, and this is like the workflow is this video the workflow that you used in your entry, and do you generally use for your mocap? Okay.
Yeah, because when you parent if you retarget your mocap to the meta rig,
Right.
you lose like all these features that Rigify is so great, where you can like turn on face bones. You lose these inverse kinematics.
Right.
You lose the ability to shift between invert IK and FK. So it's worth the extra effort, and I'm just pointing
100%.
people to this video as like a starting point, because this is where all the answers I got came from. But the one little caveat I'm saying is, instead of using the Rokoko retargeting, I've had more luck with the Auto Rig Pro. It's like a $40 add-on one-time fee type thing.
Yeah.
But
and it's more than worth it. I mean, there's so many tutorials for it. There's such a community around it. I mean, that's why the Blender marketplace is so great. It's because there's really better ways to do things, and it's usually on there. Cool.
But yeah,
okay.
I think it would work with the Rokoko app as well. So you might want to give it a shot. Anyone listening, to try the Rokoko app. But so you have your source armature. I have my Daisy. The nice thing here is you don't have to worry about rest poses so much.
Okay.
I can just
that is nice.
I'm just gonna like highlight some bones. Oh, the one there's all these like little tricks that you have to do. So the one thing is, I can't highlight bones unless the bones are in a bone group. So I'm gonna go into edit mode, move all these bones into a bone group with, you know, M key, and say, okay, whatever, I'm gonna name it the B collection. That's what's so funny about this technical stuff. There's all these like little steps you got to do. But let me now I can make sure like the finger, you know, because your mocap's fingers come in totally straight. Daisy's are a little bent, and I want to like adjust for. I want to compensate for any differences in those poses. So now I can, you know, select those arms, shoulders, fingers, and I can say copy selected bone rotation, and you'll see now you see like it matched those rotations. I can say apply, so it applied it. It doesn't look like it, but it's
in the
hidden
rest
there.
pose.
And yeah, now I can I'll hit this retarget button. We'll see if my computer stutters, but I think it uses like full CPU when doing this retarget.
And backing up even, so you made all these characters for in Blender, and then you created the meshes in Blender, and then you used the Rigify app to rig them in Blender, or did you go to another?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, that's exactly right. So like I said, I've been getting more interested in characters, and so here's Daisy doing your motion. And like the nice thing is those fingers, you know, it's all about the fingers for me, I think. Like those and then, you know, I did the extra trouble of giving her all the 52 iPhone shape keys.
Yeah.
So let's bring back Newton.
I'm also curious how you did that. If you added just brute force sculpted each blend shape, right?
You could do that. There's another app in the Blender market which it basically lets you pose your. It shows you a picture of like what, you know, left lip up means, and then you can just use your Rigify and pose it. You set a keyframe, and then it'll print out. After you do 52 different frames, it'll print out all your little shape keys.
But
cool.
That's cool.
I think it's called just look up shape keys in the Blender market. It's probably the 52 blend shape. I don't know. It should be easy to find, I think. But there's all these these little technical hurdles you never think about. So if I want to copy Newton's shape keys, so here's his face, right? Well, it's like I need to first input a keyframe on all of her shape keys.
Yep, right.
So I had one thing I like about AI is ChatGPT wrote me a little script. I asked it like, can you write me a script to input a keyframe on all the shape keys in this character or something. So now here's my little script that ChatGPT wrote, and if I hit play, all of a sudden on the right, all those now have a keyframe.
Wow.
So that was kind of handy. And now I can go to Newton's face. I can select all those keyframes, just Command C, go to her face, Command V, and now let's see if let's hide.
Wow. Nuts.
Nice.
So I mean, that's I think that's magic to me. Like there are those hurdles, but when you get a character that looks alive, it's always a wonderful thing. So just I'm encouraging anyone out there, stick with it. There are those hurdles, but it definitely can become like this really amazing workflow.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tough part is that as many tutorials, there's just not a lot of tutorials for motion capture stuff, and there are, like you're saying, so many of these little things that you run into where it just isn't working for whatever reason, and you just have to like play around and. But this is why it's so great to go through your workflow, because even that I'll put that video down in the description and but like we're always looking for workflows that allow people to retarget and still have an IK control rig and take advantage of all that stuff. So that's awesome. And this is the actual scene.
Yeah. Well, and just to back up, the reason that retargeting with the IK rig is cool is because then if you need to tweak the animation, like if I wanted to use the animation of that alien scream, but I wanted her squatting a little bit, I could just grab her like hip controller and move it down, and then she'd be like in a squatting pose. So it makes nice. It's good for like when you have to tweak your mocap, which you always have to do, because like Daisy and Peach have these like poofy waists. Like their dresses are poofed out, so oftentimes their arms would like cut through. So I would like sometimes tweak it, but other times the motion is so quick you like never notice it. So like Alex's, it looked like you put a lot of work into making that character amazing. My process is like I just go for sheer volume. So I like these.
It's incredible
characters.
Yeah, talk about that.
I modeled the Goombas, but all these I found just by like accident online. You can look up Mario Odyssey download. There's just a site where you can download characters. But I did model Jerry Springer.
Nice.
Got him.
Who looked great, by the way. Spot on. Like.
Yeah, and I just tried to like make the set how I remembered in the 90s. Like the set did change in the like 2000s and stuff, but that was my main strategy. I was like, if I put enough life into the scene, it'll look impressive. So like, yeah, the original shot was, Daisy running over, she knocks over a chair, and then she just kind of wails on Peach.
The camera angle, the Toad with the camera.
Well, and like I had to cut that out, so you didn't even see that in the original submission. 7 seconds is so short. But the original version ended right about here with this guy, this muscle toad, I call him. He's like breaking up the fight, and Daisy looks really, really pissed. But I think what actually helped win the competition was the throw when she throws the muscle toad, and that was not my. That was so my kids watch these videos. They're like my biggest fans, and my son. He's a little guy, but he was like, "Oh, wouldn't it be funny if he lifted up the toad and threw him?" And I was like, "Oh, that's the winning idea right there." So I just cut off the end, and here's how I did the throwing shot. Because I don't think mine actually would have won anything if this shot hadn't been in here, where she lifts him up, holds him above her head, and I had her say like, I don't know if anyone could hear it, but she says like a Mad Max reference where she's like, "Witness me."
Oh yeah, I just knew it was the emotion came across, but I couldn't ever. I don't think I knew exactly what she was saying. Witness me. That's amazing.
But then she swoops him around and tosses him, and the way I did the mocap for her was I had these two dumbbells, these two 10-pound weights, and so like if I'm ever doing something where the character's like holding a big sword, I make sure when I do the mocap, like I'm holding a weight, so my body has to compensate for that weight. I think really I wish I had bigger dumbbells, but so then I swung these dumbbells around. I didn't let them go, but I'm actually holding dumbbells right there, and I think that gets the nice like lean.
The balance.
Then this dude right here, I think. He's not really mocapped. He had like a mocap of him standing, and then I just added some animation on top of him where I just have him like kind of bending backward. So it's definitely worth knowing a little bit about animation if you're going to get into mocap, because you need to tweak this stuff. But to keep it easy, those muscle toads, I did just use Rokoko's strategy of like just parenting, just making them with a meta rig. Only using the meta rig and then retargeting to the meta rig, because I knew their background characters. I didn't want to do anything much with the face.
And are there blend shapes on the face too, or is that mouth a jaw or a bone, or how is that happening?
That mouth is just a blend shape. So it gave him like 3 blend shapes where he can like frown and scream, and that's about it.
Wow.
So that was just manual keyframed in when he's getting thrown.
And even backing up further, like what was your process of putting just really like sequentially, what was the process of the scene? Do you build the scene first? Do you have reference up when you're doing that, or are you just slapping things together as you have ideas, and or like what was the actual sequence of events?
I do like a rough block out. But really, this whole action takes place on a stage. So when I mocapped it, I just had 2 chairs in my living room, about at the same distance. So everything was like almost like a 1-to-1 transition. When Daisy gets up and runs at Peach, I didn't really think about it too much, but I ran about 5 steps and just started swinging my arms.
Oh, good.
And then Peach, I was standing in my living room, 5 steps away from that chair. So when the mocap came in, things were kind of synced up quite nicely. Sometimes you do have to make adjustments. If I open up this Daisy, I'll just quick show you a way. Sometimes you have to like slide characters around to make them look like they're actually interacting. And what I do, so I don't have to jump into the bones animation properties, this root bone, which controls all of Daisy, I actually parent that to a mesh object. So it's a child of constraint, and then there's this circle. So like if I need to shift her a little bit, I can just move this circle
the entire
around,
mesh around
the entire field. I can even keyframe that if I need to like nudge her into place a little more.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about jury rigging.
Yeah. Yep.
And you were saying that I think do you do all your shots in one project file, or do you have a bunch of different project files for each shot, or how did that work?
Yeah, I usually do a bunch of different project files. So with this first pass, I was trying to get a lot of camera cuts into it, but normally like on a longer project like that Daisy Lana Del Rey music video, it's just like each shot is its own project file. So then if I need to make tweaks to a specific shot, I just open that up. But this one I really wanted it to feel like television, so I just have a bunch of markers that swap between like 30 different camera locations. So this is all like one long take, and they're in the non-linear animation editor. You can see I've kind of like stacked some actions on top of each other. So like Peach's face right here was a separate thing I added on later. Let's see if I hide that. You can see her face. It's pretty big tweaking I do. Their heads were too big, so I shrunk her head.
Wow.
And I gave her some emotion. But without that, it looks like there's no life to her face.
So you did all of that in edit afterwards. You didn't adjust her head first, and that's interesting.
So like I basically bring in the mocap as a raw file, and I don't like try to tweak those keyframes. I make another layer on top, and you've had a tutorial on this where if you click it, you set the blending mode to combine. Yeah. And then you can make those tweaks on top of it, like shrinking the head, and it just adjusts the full rig. So in this case, the adjustments I made were like bringing the emotion out in Peach's face,
awesome.
Making her blink, making their eyes move.
Yeah. And how horrifying is all of this to you, Alex? Like, are you familiar with these tools, or is this like all completely nonsense?
Not this is not as familiar now. I'm sort of yet to
So
really get into
deep.
animation. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is amazing
Well,
how you
it's,
can
I
stack
mean,
and layer.
well, yeah, and we'll get into how if you did any editing, but it's amazing that you did all this in Blender. Marvelous. I mean, I know you can, but it's just it looks like there's so much going on.
Well, I was gonna I don't know. I don't want to like bore people too much, but
No. I think this is really interesting, like getting into the nuts and the bolts, because I think it's again people. This is a topic that there's not enough. Usually, when you learn that one weird bit of information, it's from something like this. So, like, go get into the weeds.
Okay, and so I just I went back to this Daisy thing and I retargeted. I'm not gonna worry about the face right now, but this is like the raw animation retargeted, the alien scream. But Blender does a lot of things behind the scenes. So like in the timeline, I'm seeing all the keyframes, but there's something called the dope sheet. And in the dope sheet, it looks just like the timeline, which is confusing. But if you go to the action editor, this action actually has a name that's nonsensical. It's called root clip base layer 001 remap. It's like totally useless, but I'm going to rename. Actually, I'm going to show you another thing happening behind the scenes too. Just while that's going on, there's something called the non-linear animation.
Right.
And this is where you can actually stack clips. And I can see it's called, right now, just the keyframes in the timeline are called root clip base layer. I'm going to rename it to like Daisy Scream.
Well, okay.
And then updated there.
Yeah.
And then if you can push it down into a layer by clicking this button or this button. They're the same button. And now it's there. Now if I wanted to tweak it, like I want her squatting the whole time, you have to click this right here, the layer above, which says no action. By default, it's set to replace, which means anything I do is just gonna like negate whatever the keyframes on her hip were.
Right.
But if I set this to combine, right here, blending mode, combine, and then I go into the pose mode, like right here, I'll set a keyframe where it was, location, rotation, scale, but maybe right here, I want her like squatting, and I'll set a new keyframe.
Yeah.
Now she's gonna do the full thing, and that's kind of a way you can layer up your animations. And let's say I want to push that down. One thing to keep in mind is you might want to, these keyframes hold.
Right.
They keep holding even though it stopped. If you don't ever want it to do that, you can switch that to nothing.
Oh, wow.
And then when the animation ends,
oh wow,
it actually will end. But for this case, I'm going to leave it to hold. And then let's make a new layer. Let's say, oh, and I didn't name that. I should have named it in the action editor, but I'll name it this one. This one I'll call like head weak.
Huh.
And it's set blending mode to combine, and maybe their heads were too big.
Wow.
And I'll set a keyframe at the beginning if I ever want to go back to that kind of neutral state. But now I'll make my adjustment here, set in the keyframe,
Hold.
and now she's looking a lot different. Or maybe I want her like look into the sky as she does it. And so now, yeah, it's just like kind of a cool way you can make minute adjustments and layer it on top of each other to find like the perfect, and you can move those keyframes in. And then when you're happy with that, you can like push that down, down the stack, and yeah.
Super interesting, huh?
Yeah,
because
so you can keyframe those as well, so you can have the head shrink. Is that what you did then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think if you actually click this little animation strip, if you hit tab, like going into edit mode, I can then actually say, no, I want that to shrink a lot, and I want it to shrink like over a longer period of time. And then when I hit tab again, it actually adjusted the strip, which is kind of a handy.
That's cool.
So you can see it shrinking over time. And
wow, that's so. I mean, I've seen lots of uses of the non-linear editors, but I feel like normally, like, what would you do if you needed Peach to have the same sized head in another mocap take or something? Like, would you just kind of guesstimate it? Or would you do
what do you,
like if you, because you would do this presumably for multiple mocap takes with Peach or whoever this is, right? And like if you're shrinking her head in the non-linear editor, can you copy that layer to another instance of her animation or something, or do you have to just be like shrink her head in the other one as well?
Yeah. So any new like the reason I had to do that workflow is because I messed up the meta rig. And so it wasn't really easy for me to like regenerate this rig without a lot of work.
Right.
So yeah, anytime there's a new project, I was like, her head's still big. So yeah, that was like that was one of the strips I like added to every one of them. Another strip was like their arms were always clipping their hips.
Yeah.
So like I would.
That's a classic.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Well, anyways, I think that's. The only other tip for anybody really interested in this workflow is the way I got it to work with AutoRig Pro is the way retargeting works is you have the source bone going to the target bone, right? And I made a version to go to the FK arms. And the big tip is if you were using IK arms, I'd recommend making another preset that's just for IK arms, and then make sure your rig, like for example, if I have a IK rig but I'm using the FK preset, you can slide between the two rigs, but fingers get a little messed up. So simple thing is, if you're using an FK arm setup, make sure you have your FK preset at first when you retarget it, and then everything. It sounds like common sense, but
and then everything
just
after
stumbling
that.
block. Yeah, like if you're using IK, make sure you have your IK set up when you retarget. I know that's not totally great explanation.
Well,
but I wish that information was out there.
Is any of that in that tutorial that you referenced earlier?
No.
Okay, so it's just
like,
use FK arms and then.
Well, you can use FK or IK, but just make sure you're make sure she's. Here's her IK arms. Like you can move her hand. Like I just thought, never mind. I don't want to go too deep into it.
No, I mean I think these are the things that again people run into, and it's good to know that at least there's like some sort of solution that's even possible, because I tend to get to a point where you're like, you know, it doesn't seem like there's an answer with some of this stuff, but if you just play with it long enough, I guess, and you switch between IK arms, and you know, it's always something like that. Yeah, which you stumble across. Again, maybe
it's just one of the.
No, go for it.
It's just one of the features of the Rigify app is it's like so easy to swap. Like, in this scene I want to use FK arms, in that scene I want to use IK arms, and I'm just giving people the warning like, when you're using mocap with that specific scene, choose one or the other and stick with it for that scene. It works with both. But you're not going to be able to easily like, now I want to use the FK arms once I've already applied the mocap to the IK arms. And, I know it sounds obvious, but I just want that out there.
Yeah, it's not obvious. I mean, it's always like the thing that's hiding right underneath your nose. It's the one checkbox that you forget about. Before we swap over to Alex, how did you handle all the post-processing stuff? Like, did you just kind of, because there's quite a bit of effects layered on top to make it look, 90s.
Yeah.
And what was that?
It was
like?
There's two things. In Blender, the compositor has a glare node, and I set it to streaks, and I set the angle to 45 degrees to get those nice little star streaks. And then in DaVinci, I just used the analog TV damage and set the preset to like old VHS. So the post-processing was actually pretty basic.
You just layered it on. And was there a lot of editing? Did you export exactly 7 seconds out of Blender and that's what you ended up using? No, you had a bunch of different clips that you had and then put them together?
Yeah. Yeah, I had a hard time like chopping it down to 7 seconds.
Yeah.
So I think what I exported out was probably closer to like 12 seconds, and it's like, well, I'm gonna have to remove that shot. I got to remove that, you know, so what's left is like bare minimum of what you need to tell a story. Like I would have cut out Jerry Springer, but it's like I put so much work into modeling him. It was like, gotta leave him in there.
Gotta leave him in.
I know. Yeah, the sun. I mean, he adds so much, so I think that like totally was a good move. And then for the crowd characters, it's mostly just one animation retimed in the nonlinear editor or something. Is that how you handled that? Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't know if you can still see my screen, but if you click those strips and then you scroll down, there's in the action clip, you can just like repeat those clips for infinity if you wanted. That's so cool. They were much shorter clips of like somebody cheering, but you know, I just repeated it like 100 times.
Can you blend those too, or they just like repeat?
You can put strips over other strips and blend into those strips. So like, yeah, but yeah, they just repeat like on that strip. So that's why you want to make it a looping animation.
Right.
So
crazy, man. Oh yeah, God.
They say Blender's going to be changing its animation workflow. I'm like, oh man, not now.
Oh God.
I know. I did hear something about the non-linear stuff that's going to change. I mean, I've never touched any of it. But
well, they just added a bunch of node-based stuff, right, for modeling, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always a new paradigm-shifting, update that is going to make everything easier, but it just breaks everyone's workflow. It totally
breaks the workflow you had.
Yeah. Well, this was awesome, man. Thanks for getting into it. Maybe we'll jump back over if there's any other questions. But Alex, should we dive into yours a little bit and see a different side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think mine's going to be as in depth. I think I've forgotten everything I learned
on yours. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, I'm sort of learning as I was going on this.
Yeah, and before we even do that, so Marvelous, you have a suit.
Yes.
So you made a lot of animations with your suit, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And Alex, you don't though, right? I mean, now you are.
Yeah, I mean, I did try out the vision stuff. But my house is so small.
Yeah.
The rooms are.
Yeah. You need some space. Right.
Yeah, I got it working with 2 cameras. It's like, this is amazing. Like, I can't believe AI can the technology can do this.
But it's limited too.
It was limited, and because I'd already downloaded the preset animation, and that just fell in love with that preset animation, straight away.
And what was that animation that you ended up using for the body?
It was can you see my screen now?
I can, yeah. Beautiful Cecil.
There he is. He's gorgeous.
He is gorgeous. Golly.
It was the home shopping.
Okay. Yeah. So this is some of the free mocap for the contest that we made.
Free mocap stuff, because the original idea was it wasn't going to be a car salesman. It was a completely different idea, completely different character. It's the same model, but different personality.
Yeah.
It was going to be like an antiques roadshow kind of. I don't know if you get that.
Totally.
It's going to be an antiques roadshow skit, and it's going to be 2 characters, and but as soon as I got this mocap onto to one of the characters, like it's got to change, like it just completely changed the character.
Yeah.
So this was the
So how did you find the process of doing the retargeting and all that?
Pretty straightforward. Yeah, I followed one of your tutorials.
Okay, and it worked. That's good.
Yeah, I'm not going to try and recreate that because, like I said, I've completely.
No. It's one of those things where you got to go back and rewatch the tutorial because it goes in one side, out the other.
But it was so straightforward and just like I got onto the character, within, very quickly.
And so you got it onto the Manny quickly, and now and also I'm curious, Marvelous, how much of this now is like this is all completely gibberish to you? I imagine a little bit, or have you played around in Unreal at all?
No, this is what I'd like to learn.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm like leaning forward right now. I was like,
So
okay, this is cool.
yeah, equally complicated and crazy looking as Blender, though. I feel like I'm. Anyway, okay, so you got it onto the Manny, and then yeah, how did Cecil come into all this?
I mean, then you sort of export that, don't you? And I think I can't remember.
Right, the animation.
Yeah. Let me. I might just turn the audio up on this because.
Okay, and you did all the audio in Unreal too.
I brought in. I think it was in Audition. I just went in and degraded the audio. Just want to get that sort of blown out kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And it's fine. The animation. So yeah, it was like all metahuman based. So the rig is already in there.
And the body. So how did this work? How did you get this crazy? So this is a metahuman. Cecil is a metahuman, but his body and his face have been edited. And where did the clothes come from? How does that all work? Like how did you do all that?
The clothes that's all Marvelous Designer.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's all. So I've got my head around Marvelous,
Okay, so you designed these and you did these in Marvelous.
Yeah, and a bit of Substance Painter as well, just to texture all this up. Again, it was like it was a bit slapdash, like get the textures on there and get it, just get the most crude color combination I can think of. Any sort of aesthetics have gone out the window.
Awfulness, I mean, perfect. Yeah, horrible colors,
awful.
Just awful. Yeah.
My least favorite colors. Anything sky blue, like no. And then so it's all it's fully rigged.
But again, so you download a metahuman, and then what happens?
Yeah. Okay, I've got them. This is This is the base actor. He's already got green skin there.
Okay.
But this is like you can bring in any metahuman as a base, and I've got this plugin which is called Mesh Mocap.
Oh yeah, you were talking about this. Okay.
Yeah. So this is a way to take the base mesh and export it out, get it into Blender or get it into ZBrush, and sculpt on top, and you can create any shape you want within reason. That there are sort of some limitations to the alterations you make, and then you bring it all back in, and then it updates the underlying rig or the bones. You've got loads of adjustments you can make,
and how difficult is all that? Like, is that pretty deep knowledge, I feel like? Or was it a relatively simple process to pull it out, go through your normal moto sculpting deal, and then get it back in? Like, was that relatively painless?
But just because I've been sort of learning this workflow, just for a few months on, other personal projects, just trying to, this competition came around at, just exactly the right time where I've got my head around it.
Yeah,
so,
same kind of thing.
Yeah. So it did take, a few sort of false starts to get going. There's a few hoops. I don't know if might not have the license to open. Oh, here we go.
I mean, it is a wonderful, and marvelous. I mean, that's the allure of metahumans, right? Is that, I don't know if you've seen Metahuman Animator, but like if you can do it in such a way that you can rely on the underlying Unreal goodness, it's so, I mean, Metahuman Animator is just amazing, which is what you used for the facial animation, right? Yeah.
Yeah, all the face stuff, which, it's a bit of a game changer for me, just to get, I've always wanted to get, realistic facial performance, and when they brought out the only reason I bought an iPhone was to do all the, the AR hit stuff.
Right.
I had no use for it apart from the technology that it contains.
Yeah.
And that was all right. It felt a bit sort of, if you're putting it on a semi-realistic face, it can feel a bit, not quite natural enough. But
Right.
this was, this was.
Oh God! Look at that.
This is
crazy.
Yeah. So this is.
Huh.
Which is pretty clever stuff.
That's
and
nuts.
The actual, isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's all just relatively automatic once you get your sculpt in, right? It just works with all the out of the box metahuman stuff.
It just works, yeah. You think because you're changing the face so much, and
right.
You're really sort of changing it from the base shape that it won't transfer. The shape language won't transfer, but you can really
yeah, clearly you can really take them pretty far. I mean, the nose is bananas, and the ears. I mean, it's crazy. Are those even the original metahuman ears, or is that like another part of the head that you brought up?
No, that is the ears.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean there is another because you can subdivide this mesh, because the base mesh for the metahuman is quite not low res, but it's not high res enough to keep retain those details. So you can actually subdivide, and subdivided it twice, so it's quite dense.
So you can change the polygons, and you can still re-import it, and it will work with Mesh Morpher.
Yeah, huh? Yeah, it's still because you use the base metahuman. I think you subdivide that first, and then you can export that. And as long as it keeps all the same vert numbers and everything,
right.
Once you bring it back in, it will do its magic behind the scenes. And
yeah, again, me just knowing barely enough to understand what you're talking about, but I do. And it's amazing that it all still works. And this is the metahuman animator animation.
Yeah. So this is like my sketchy performance.
Yeah. Yeah. As you'll quickly find out once you start playing with the suit, and you already know from this, it's like it's deeply vulnerable to actually start acting, like doing the acting, and
Yeah.
In front of your wife and kids.
I know. Yeah, people walk in, and the amount of packages that I've picked up from a mailman in my suit.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic! Yeah, the same thing happened. Like because the walls in my house are quite thin, and
right.
I was doing the performance.
The
performance.
Yeah, you got to get into it.
I've got to get into it, and I did it in one run through. I took about 20 takes to get.
Yeah.
To not stumble over my words and get the performance out. But I could hear my neighbours through the walls, and could hear them walking about, thinking, "What do they think I'm doing?"
Yeah, I know. It's always humbling to be doing that stuff.
Yeah, but in front of my kids and everything, act a fool anyway. So I'm looking forward to acting.
Yeah,
more foolish.
I know. Yeah, you can throw them in too, depending on how old.
Because like my son, his first reaction was like, "I want to make Five Nights at Freddy's animations."
I mean, yeah, you got to hop on those trends. He's got to figure it out, man.
Yeah, I've got to teach him. It's like,
yeah.
You want to use this suit, you need to learn. You
need to watch some really boring long tutorials with me. It's it's a fun road.
So just a thing about kids and learning. So my old laptop is sitting right next to me, and my son I'm like the worst teacher ever. But what's interesting about kids, at least I don't know, maybe it's a boy thing, but like he's just like playing around on Blender, and I'm like, "Hey, how'd you do that?" Well, it's just weird. He's clicking around, and I'm giving him very little support, which is weird. I should be like right over his shoulder, like, "Oh, now do this." But it reminds me of when I learned to like animate as a kid. It's like you have all the time in the world, you have no cares in the world, and you're just enjoying seeing like, oh, this button did that, or like you have no goals. It's really
Yeah.
inspiring to see like a child learning this 3D stuff, and it's totally different than how we would approach it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was
I think
like, Dad, you should just have less goals. Then you won't feel sad when they don't work out. I'm like, that's genius.
Whoa. Proper
That is
guru
genius.
style.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, so we might, like my daughter, I taught her like, a few modeling tricks in Modo, just how to zip around. I leave her to it, come back, and she built a butterfly. It's like,
Yeah.
how have you done that?
I know.
Yeah.
So,
It's so cool too that these programs are available as well. I mean, and both Blender and Unreal are and it's like
yeah.
you can build AAA whatever. There's no limit to what you can do in these programs.
Since you guys know more about Unreal than me, I want to make custom characters, but then put them in Unreal because of the whole Megascan library. If I want to put them in a really grungy apartment. But Sam, you were saying like treat Unreal like the stage. Does that mean I should animate my character and get them looking good in Blender, and then just like import them as an FBX and not do anything in Unreal with animation?
This is interesting. I mean, Alex, I'm curious to know your thoughts on this because it sounds like it went relatively smoothly. I mean, in my experience in the last few years, in the last 15 months-ish, Unreal has become much better for this sort of thing. And so you did all the animation and retargeting in Unreal, right, Alex? Did you do editing? Yeah.
Yeah, all the editing. Yeah, it's all camera cuts. Like if I switch to, let me just hide. I've just got, there's a bunch of cameras in here, like 5 cameras, and you can just chop it up in this sort of main camera cuts timeline. So everything is worked out, in
right, yeah, big and small.
Shot.
But did you do all the mocap editing in there too?
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. All the mocaps. This is like the base. Let me turn up the. Because I baked it all down to the control rig.
Right.
So this is all just brought the animation, the mocap straight in, and it's super nice to work with. You can come on, Brian. How do I?
Can you make tweaks, like if his arms were clipping, you're like, oh, I need to adjust his arms so they're sticking out farther. Like you could do all that.
Absolutely, yeah. It's because once you've baked all the animation down to the control rig, you can then, like you can in Blender, and just put an additive layer. So you've got your base
on the control rig.
Yeah.
On the control rig. So then you've got like an extra control rig, on top of the control rig, and you can put as many sort of additive layers on to adjust things. It's
yeah, I would say that the thing is, which is similar to cinema a little bit, is that if you're working within the Unreal Engine like tool set, like you're using a metahuman, for example, like metahumans come with a control rig. If you're using a Unreal Epic Skeleton rigged character, you can find pre-built control rigs for those. If you were going to use a Rigify character and bring it into Unreal, you would have to make your own control. It's not good at dealing with edge cases as much, right? So if for a custom character, unless you're going to use a metahuman or you're going to use an Unreal, unless you rig in Blender an Unreal character, it's not going to work. There's going to be more hoops you have to go through in Unreal. But the character animation stuff has gotten a lot better, and I think.
Yeah. It feels. I mean, it feels because you've got all your curve editors and everything. In here. So it feels, once you've worked out all the the quirks and how you navigate through these. It works similar to Modo and Blender and and Maya, I guess.
But what you totally can just do, like, especially if you have a workflow you really enjoy in Blender, like you can just export out the FBX of the edited character and then bring it into Unreal, and then you start, then you start building your scene out and all of that, and you get to play with the real time aspect of it.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there is I've never used it, but there's a bridge, because I use a bridge application from Modo, which can send stuff, not animation, but if I'm building out a scene, I can model it all in Modo, because I'm quicker in Modo. I can just model it and just send it direct to Unreal, instantly.
Yeah.
Which is
and it's like it works, it transfers nicely, which usually I'm sure in Blender, I mean, there's so many people who work in Blender who use Blender as their backup or their prep stage for Unreal, that there's so many. I'm sure it's relatively easy to get stuff out of Blender, especially a character, and pull it into Unreal. Yeah
because all the groom on this, actually, this is all Blender hair.
And man, it is a very clean. It's very clean in terms of your lighting setup and your what is. So this is Lumen, or what is happening with? Man, it just looks really quite good.
I mean, I actually rendered it in Path Tracer.
Okay. So you rendered it in Path.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar in Lumen. I mean, you get, it's what's great about scene building and just getting the feel for the scene in real time. It's like there's no other software that can give you this level of speed, and you can think fast and make these decisions really quickly.
And then you switch over to Path Tracer and adjust your lighting and stuff before the final render. Was it pretty 1-to-1?
It was, well, it's not 1-to-1. You're getting like a nice softer light in path tracing,
right?
Once it kicks in, it takes ages to get going. And so I think I set the shots in Path Tracer thinking, this is the light that I want. But I switch back to Lumen if I'm, animating.
Yeah.
So I set, he was just like, I just blocked it out.
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing. Uh-oh, did I lose you guys? Am I still around? No,
I'm still here. I think it's the rendering going on.
Oh, it probably is
completely.
Whenever I try to
render while on the stream.
Yeah, it's the path tracing. Did you use path tracing in yours? Did you end up going cycles, or was it Eevee?
Yeah,
the cycles.
I always use I like he said with the ray tracing. It's like just a softer. I don't know. To me, it just looks better, less video gamey, I guess.
I'm gonna let him know that he's got to. You may need to render. Rejoin us after your computer stops burning.
Yeah, that's my one reason why I'm not ready to dive into. It's just the metahuman thing. I feel like what if you wanted a character with 3 legs?
Well, so but you can do all that stuff. It's just you should be prepared to accept that you're gonna have to do a lot of that in Blender, right? And then it's all all these programs nowadays they're all trying to do everything. Cinema's trying to do everything. They're all trying to, but they aren't good at everything, and so you use the ones. I think it's so helpful to be. I jumped into Unreal just thinking this was the new promised land, and you can't adjust meshes in there. Really, you can't rename a blend shape. You can't do it. So it's there's so many little things like that that you end up needing to needing to go back to Blender. You may need to stop sharing. Oh, he's rebooting. Wow. Yeah. So that's what I knew something would go wrong. That's what goes wrong. Yeah. What do you think of the Unreal workflow though?
Oh no, I mean I'm envious of people who look comfortable, and it looks just this character's amazing and incredible, and
looks so good.
Yeah, it's okay, I gotta it takes years in my experience to get comfortable in a program. At least 6 months.
Oh my God, man!
With a bunch of false starts.
100%. That's the way it goes. I just clicked into Unreal and feeling comfortable in Unreal, like, and I'm still so uncomfortable. But it took so long. I don't know. You try and do these tutorials even, but until it becomes muscle memory of like you figure out your hotkeys and you're using tab to like push, the nonlinear animation editor and manipulate until you figure out those things. It's always a slog, and I don't think there's an easy way, which is fine.
Here's my personal struggle. It's it's like, okay, I know Blender, and then I'm dabbling in Houdini and getting into Unreal, but meanwhile I'm trying to master my character workflow, and every time I jump into Unreal, I start feeling stressed, man, I haven't practiced character modeling in a week, and oh no, now I'm starting to forget everything I learned in Houdini, and I know. That's why I think that's my big struggle with Unreal is I haven't committed full time opening it every day. I open it once a week.
Yeah.
But if I opened it every day, then I wouldn't be able to make anything for the next year,
Yeah, I know.
I'd be so bad at it.
Yeah. It's I think it's also just about setting good, not being too ambitious. 'Cause that's my problem. Yeah. I always want to do what I see on my social feeds, what I see from whoever is gotten me all salivating on what they made, and then it's you quickly realize that it's good work takes time, is hard. It never is easy. It seems like to me.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see if Alex comes back up, but we might kind of call it when he gets back. Yeah, but it's fun. It's so good to hop in, and I'm really excited to go through that video that you were showing, which I'll put a link to, because Blender is I use industry compatible hotkeys because I don't know the Blender hotkeys, and my point being my Blender, it's not. I need to do better tutorials for our Blender workflows, and I'm excited to go and look at that, because I'm sure it's much better than what we have up. It's so, and it's hard to find information about those things, so it's good to have that tutorial.
Yeah, I think yours is good. It's definitely a good intro, but there could be the beginner one and the more advanced one.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you want to get people to a control rig. The goal is get to a control rig and an IK control rig, or swappable, I guess, using and so when you were talking about the way you have it set up, it's you rig it on Rigify, but then you're using Auto Rig Pro to do the retargeting, but you're still using Rigify bit tools, or after you're done with the Rigify, are you now fully in Auto Rig Pro?
Okay, so I guess that is confusing. Auto Rig Pro comes with the ability to make a rig,
right?
But I just prefer the Rigify rig,
right?
And I've been using that for years now. I like the way they color their rig. I like the way you can click off, I want to hide just fully the left side, and you can hide those bone controllers,
right?
So. Yeah, I fully make a character, and I use Rigify to make the rig, and I'm only using Auto Rig Pro for retargeting at this point.
So
and then once I retarget the animation, I just go back to using my Rigify rig to make tweaks, and I pretty much don't have to touch Rigify again until I need new mocap on the character.
When you were swapping between FK and IK arms, was that in Auto Rig Pro, or was that in Rigify? Was that in the Rigify?
It's Rigify. All those, Rigify has amazing functions like that. It has things where it's how much, when you move the shoulders, do you want the head and neck to follow? Or do you want it to stay looking straight ahead? There's all these little controllers with Rigify that I just can't live without.
But that comes through to the Auto Rig Pro, or is it
Auto Rig Pro is not really doing anything other than it's transferring your mocap bones, and I'm retargeting it to my Rigify bones. Like there is no auto rig pro
Oh,
rig at all.
I see. Okay. That's where I was getting confused. I thought you were generating your IK rig still with Auto Rig Pro, but you're just using Auto Rig Pro for the retargeting.
Yeah, and so if I could
Okay.
get it to, I've only tried once, but if I got the Rokoko retargeting to work with rig, I wouldn't even use Auto Rig Pro at this point.
Yeah,
a
but it
great
doesn't
app,
have
but,
it's the pose correction stuff, probably in part.
Yeah, that's really useful.
The
really
the
nice.
current pose versus, because ours is broken with that still for some reason. Interesting.
Well, I'm sure it's complicated.
Well, yeah, I
As
know.
with everything.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I know. I gotta have Chat GPT. Write some code fixes. That's so cool too that you were using Chat GPT. I've done that a couple times to interpret Blender errors that I've gotten because I never know what they are, and it's so cool that you can do that. Cool. Well, I don't want to hop off before Alex jumps back. So I'm gonna put up. Hold on. Winner montage. We'll put the winner montage back up. Let me look at the Jerry Springer again. It was so good. So, do you have a head rig at all?
With my suit, I got this chest rig.
You got the chest rig.
It's like a little pole, but I'm excited. With my winning entry or whatever, I'm getting the head rig, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's great. It's so amazing. It's so great. I love that thing so much. It's not a bicycle helmet that I've made in my garage, which is what I used to use.
Yeah.
Which was fine, but.
Yeah, I just don't want to make anything. It's cool that I'll be getting bicycle helmet.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wear it while I bike.
Yeah, totally. We got a comment from someone who was talking about how they didn't understand that it was for facial motion capture in our Instagram ad. So it's just like, why do you need to be FaceTiming with this thing? They just thought it was for general purpose use, which was
mocap can be dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, it can be. In what way do you mean?
Well, I mean, if I see some people get pretty acrobatic in their suits. I'm like, wow, that's brave. They just did a somersault or something.
Yeah, it can take it, but yeah. Hey, Alex, what's going on? Sorry, man. Path tracing.
There you go.
And something went wrong. That's how it goes. Yeah.
Oh, then my PC says, "Oh, I want to do an update." Like,
I'm so sorry. I'm sure that was stressful. That sucks when that happens. But yeah, we were just kind of wrapping up and just shooting the shit. And man, great workflow in Unreal. I'm so interested to go look at that mesh. Is Mesh Morph?
Mesh Morpher. Yeah.
And I feel like there are a lot of
that do the same kind of thing, but this one's
was there good tutorial support for that?
Yeah, he does. He's always putting out.
Okay.
He's just done one today that runs through a load of workflow because he's updated.
Wow.
Stuff. It's it's really good.
Maybe it's time to go.
I mean, I don't think it would have been possible. Like the level of realism or just characterization you want to get into these things, I needed that bit of,
especially for hero shots.
But everything coming together, the Rokoko animation, the face animation from human animator, the customized characters, it's a dream come true really, just to put these things together.
It is an exciting time. It feels like we are getting closer to the everything program a little bit, but I'm sure it won't be though. It's just never,
I
think it's funny you said dream come true, because I remember, speaking of the Nintendo 64 again, seeing those pre-renders of Mario and stuff, and being able to make Daisy and Peach, and I add a little VHS filter, and it's like, wow, these are the renders that I grew up with. I never would have believed that someday I would be able to make my own Mario movie or whatever. It's really it is like a dream come true.
It is. It's like stuff that you do in childhood as well, stuff that sticks with you, and just that you're able to to work on that. And it's like, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. It's so amazing. It's an incredible time to be in this business when there's the only limit,
It's also very depressing.
And it's incredibly depressing and difficult, and the robots are coming to eat us, and
oh no,
yeah,
we'll fend
all
them
that.
off.
We'll fend them off. Yeah, we'll use ChatGPT against them to jujitsu their momentum. Turn it on themselves. Yeah, yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I think we are gonna call it. Oh no, go for it.
I did have one. I had one Q&A question.
Yes.
Have you guys seen the Barbie movie?
Yeah, I loved it.
No, I've not seen it.
It's fantastic. It's really.
Oh, with your daughter, you should see it. That movie has messed with my head. A lot of people are like, story is king, but with that movie, I think the story has a lot of holes and flaws, but they just look like they're having so much fun that it works as a movie. You can nitpick so much about it, but then I've seen it 10 times with my kids, and every time I watch it, I enjoy it more. It's like, I want to make a movie that's fun to watch.
I know.
Someday.
Yeah, it's not terribly depressing. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, it is so great. And actually, I remember that was something that Ian said in the judging contest. He was like, I can tell when somebody is having fun with the render too, and is tickling themselves with what they're doing. And it is, you can tell that both of you guys kind of, it's fun when the idea clicks and you're like, oh, okay, now I'm going, I can't stop. And then he's going to pick up the toad guy, and then he's going to throw it, and okay, I think it'll work. And can, when you get on a roll like that, it's fun.
Yeah.
Alex, as an artist, can't you feel it when the idea is clicking? I've felt that too. You just get this it's like a drug. You get this burst of enthusiasm.
Yeah, it's the best. I
kind of live for that.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't you can't really force creativity, but once you've got that idea and it clicks, and it's right, it makes sense, and you're thinking about it, and it's you go into that world yourself, don't you? Before before you put it to pixels or anything, it is the best.
And then it's 4 a.m. and you're like,
it's 4 a.m.
Oh God, okay, I'll jump back on this later. Oh my God.
Yeah. That's what it was like for me with trying to get the submission in. It was I worked 24 hours just to just nearly crying.
The last 24 hours.
The last 24 hours, and I thought I'd missed the deadline as well. I was like, oh no.
Yeah. Well, that was confusing too, I think, for Europe. Anyway, that's a whole other thing that we got to work on our deadline timer programming skills. Well, thank you guys so much for hopping on and doing this. This was really cool. And congratulations on your wins. And
thanks. It means a lot.
Yeah. Well, we'll be doing more of these things. And again, it would be super cool. Maybe in the future, we'll try and do I like to, these streams are just fun. I have no oversight. We can do whatever I want. So if you'd ever be willing to come back, I'll hit you guys up, because it'd be fun to dive deeper into I would love to see the mesh to metahuman thing, and I would love to also see the full workflow, 0 to 100 of the Blender retargeting. And so I think those would be valuable things. People are interested in those things, so.
I just want to come back and talk about the Barbie movie.
We just talk about Barbie. I
need to watch that now.
Alex, you go watch Barbie.
I will.
This is just a new podcast about just the Barbie movie. We'll just break it down.
If you put that in the title, I bet it would give you
probably. They're talking a lot about Blender animation timeline, non-linear editors in this Barbie podcast, but weird. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm going to call it, and thank you everyone for tuning in. Have a good weekend, and thank you guys. I'll see you on the Discord afterwards, and we're going to call it there. Okay. See y'all.
Cheers.
Bye.